Alright, welcome back. Just to do a check-in to see what I've been up to. I've been doing some really cool things. So what we do is we start off with the interface, where I am so far. So with the interface, we've already went over this. We've already saw this right here. I added some new features to the interface, but we're just going to go through and let's go to our customer page. So what I like to do is I like to make out my templates and pages before I start to hook up the back end and integrate everything together. These are real components. See, these are real components right here. You can hover over some of them and see the data for it. So right here, I had to do some extra, like I said in the last video, had to do some extra CSS and everything to kind of get these to work for me. So I modified what came out of the box for Bootstrap. All of this is all modifications and stuff like that. And then let's go over to the admin page. Okay. So this is the admin page. So far I have some more items to add to this admin page, but I have most of it done. So I'm pretty excited to get this rolling because I want to make videos about doing some of these components, talking to that Node-RED, because that was our main focus, is that Node-RED backend. I just want to see how useful Node-RED is, and how it makes some of your APIs very easy. So I did the admin page, and so I did another thing too, where in my S3 bucket, I actually deployed this to S3. So I did show some of the pricing for the S3, where you can go to the S3 calculator and you can see that you can turn dimes into millions of dollars. So remember, you have one product, say someone's hitting that product or that website, say you're paying hosting a lot of money for just your front end. You can use something like S3 if it's something very simple and if it's all JavaScript and HTML. In this case, we will be deploying to a server for the back end, but the front end is going to stay on S3, and this is turning dimes into millions of dollars. So what I mean by that is, say you get requests to this thing, okay, and your regular hosting bill may be about 100, 200 a month, or 59 a month, but when you scale, it turns into lots and lots of money. Okay, so S3 actually scales for you, and also you can use CloudFront to put in front of S3 in order to help scale and to help cache your site and stuff like that. I'm using a standard bucket. Okay, so that means it's going to be frequently accessed. I actually can set versioning. I can set caching on this. Also, I can set policies. So, for instance, I wrote a small policy. So that small policy is right here. This is where I wrote that small policy. So I made it where you only can do get objects, and maybe you can get the versioning, but I don't do versioning on this S3 bucket. Okay, so I kind of doubled down on this. Okay, so I made it public, but I doubled down on this just to make sure that I have the right permissions. Also, be aware that when you host something like this, be aware of the billing. Watch the billing. So I usually cut off my S3 every night I go to sleep or something like that, and I just turn it on just so you can see it. So I have little time periods random where you can see it, because if you get a DDoS attack, remember, the more requests that go out there, the bigger your bill will go. So because this scales, the DDoS attack will not do what it's intended to do, but they will hit you with the bill. Okay, so S3, I get 2 million, something 2 million requests. My first 2 million requests is less than a penny, and then you get some free tier stuff. You get some free things each month, and then the actual storage is under 1 terabyte. So you pay for the storage, this 10 terabytes and below, you pay a price, and as you get bigger and bigger, that price shrinks. But remember, over time, as it stays on there, each month it gets more and more money, but you do save money over time. So right here is where all of the files are. When you do a Gatsby build, and this is one of the reasons why I liked using Gatsby, it actually puts out all of the website files. Okay, so you can actually host it as if you're on a regular web server, a simple web server. So something like Nginx. But as I said, this is a scale, and if you notice, S3, there is no availability zone. Okay, so that's why it says global up here. So there is no availability zone. Let me zoom in on that. Let's see if I can zoom in. So you see how it says global right here? There is no availability zone for S3. Okay. So let's get into some of the mechanics of some of the things I implemented. Let me adjust that back. Oh, we had 110. Let's go backwards. I like to see things far away. About right there, about 90. Okay. So yeah, so I'm actually hosting this site, and this is considered my production. I'm hosting this site using S3 bucket. And remember, the service that you provide is what's going to bring in your revenue, and then you have that upkeep cost to keep the lights on and stuff like that. And something like this for a small business will bring in a lot of money. So say you have a product that's like get a lot of hits a day, okay, and it serves like your customer or clientele. What happens is you're saving money. You're turning one penny into millions and millions of dollars, okay, and you're saving on your tech bill. This is why you need architects. So you need software engineers, so they can help you save and be very effective, okay. So after I got that, so we talked about the S3 and everything. We talked about so far what I have with the site. I actually did some custom stuff for this right here, the CSS and all of that. I actually got these icons out of the box from there's React Bootstrap icons that I implemented here. Tag my logo on here, and that's it. Okay. So now let's talk about our build and deploy. You know, let's go to the code first. So right here, this is where I have all the code. I can run it locally. Right now it's a big mess, and eventually I'm going to, all of this is going to change. Okay. So right now I just stubbed a lot of the code. So you have the layout, which is everything around it. And then you have the children, and this is where your content is shoved into the layout. So you have the layout, which the layout calls like your nav bar. I have a nav bar here, okay? I have a nav bar here, and your layout calls that nav bar, okay? So this is everything within the layout of the template of whatever page you want to host, okay? So I have quite a few layouts. I have the admin layout, I have the customer layout, and then I have that simple layout, which is the front page. The differences between those layouts is the fact that, see, like right here, this is part of the layout, okay? That nav bar on the side. For this one, this is why it's a different layout. I chose to do it this way just in case I want to get some more pages, and I don't want to have to repeat this right here, okay? All I got to do is worry about what's inside of this right here, okay? So if we go over to the customer, okay? If we go over to the customer, so on the customer, if you notice, they don't have a nav bar. And I wanted to make it where it's very easy to distinguish between those two templates, okay? So then, if you actually go to the home page is completely different. The layout is completely different. So this is what the home page look like. The nav bars up top might look different, but the contents of that home page look very different, okay? So you have 3 layers of this. You have the layout, and then the children is everything inside of that layout. Anything that's going to change is the children, okay? And then you have like your nav bars, stuff like that, things that go into that layout, which I put the nav bars on the layout level, and then the things that constantly change, I put in the middle. So that if I do that, I can use everything as a template where I write code once and use it throughout the whole life cycle, okay? So, if you go over to here, if you notice I have quite a few files here. Like for instance, this is that simple nav bar, which is brought into the actual index.js. So see how I call the layout right here? So I actually go and grab the layout. And right here, if you notice, I didn't have to put an extension on here, which is going to grab the layout.js right here. And then what we can do is tag it here because we export it, okay? And then after we do that, then the inside of the layout right here, I actually put a lot of things into the layout, which that front page does not use children at all because it's only one page for it. That's my landing page. So there's no children. But if I want to change this, I'll take all of the contents in here and I'll make a new index page. Well, I'll convert this over to everything that's static, convert it over to the layout, and then which is just the nav bar, and then everything else like right here goes into this index.js file. So this is the content that goes into the layout. That's going to constantly change, like I said. Okay. So let's talk about what are some of the crazy things that I did. So you know, I come from DevOps. Since I come from DevOps, I am software engineer and DevOps. Since I come from that background, I like to make my products solid. Good developer experience, good look professional, etc., etc. Okay? So, if you look at my source control, I actually have everything in source control, and these are all the commits that I've done in this source control. So, let's ask the question, how am I pushing things to S3? So you have a couple ways you can do this, which I set an AWS profile in Visual Code. I can do it that way, or I can actually do Gatstby, and I can do Gatstby, and I can have it where I do my build with Gatstby, and then what I can do is run my AWS commands. So my AWS commands, I can do a copy. So like right here. So right here, I can actually copy it. And then what you have to do if you do it this way and not with the Visual Studio, you have to do an AWS configure. And when you do the AWS configure, it actually asks for your secret keys. So in order to generate your secret keys, you go into your console for AWS, your security console, and then you generate those keys. It's going to give you a file, and it's going to have a secret key, and it's going to have a another key. So you have two keys, a secret key, and I think it's a UUID key or something like that. Okay? And remember, you don't share those with anybody because policies are connected to those keys. So in the real world, I would make a policy and a key and a service account that is just for deploying to S3. That's it. I will isolate that. So let's talk about what kind of slick things Ashton has done. Okay, so this is the part that I really like. So my Bitbucket, I actually pay for my Bitbucket, and I get a certain amount of hours, a certain amount of minutes for pipelines for free each month. So I actually made a pipeline where every time I make a change to my to my code, it'll automatically pick it up and deploy it. So when I branch off to do different things in other branches, it doesn't kick off the pipeline. But when I merge into main, then it's going to kick off the pipeline. So if you notice, I have quite a few pipelines. And remember, in DevOps, you're going to get used to doing a lot of commits until you actually get the script right. So let's take a look at what that script looked like. And this is what I like about Bitbucket's tool, and it's kind of like how Azure's is too. So it recognizes this Bitbucket pipeline YAML, okay? And when you hit edit, so I'm going to hit edit and see how I can go in here and I can edit this pipeline. So it's in the form of a YAML file, and let's let it load. So it gives you help here, okay? So there's a template for exactly what I wanted to do. Otherwise, I was going to have to script everything, where it does the AWS pipeline right here, where it does S3 for you. And it runs the sync command. So the sync command is better than doing a copy command, because you don't have to do it recursively. It actually sends over the new files. So let's talk about the steps that I do through here. And I'm going to get to this later, okay? I actually did this because I like to reverse engineer, hack things. You got to understand how that build system works and what you can do. So based on what I can see, this is a Unix system. So right here, they use Docker, and they grab this Docker image. I had to change this to the correct Node.js that I'm building in on my local system. And so the first steps is what I do, I run this in parallel. So what I run in parallel is the security scan and the actual build of the artifacts. So I go and do my build, and it's my normal build. I do the npm run. We'll get to this later. And what happens is, and then my secret keys, you can actually put secrets in here. So right here. So those are my secret keys right here. And those are my secret, whatever I don't want people to be able to see. So you just mark it as secure, okay? And also it gives you options of deploying to different environments as well, okay? So, and then right here in this template that they gave me, it exported to the public directory. And then this is the S3 bucket I wanted to hit. And then my secret access key and my key ID I told you about. And then that region, okay? So now another thing I did was I put the trigger as automatic. So if you put it as manual, you'll have to click to run that pipeline every time. You know, if you want to be very cautious of how many minutes you use for the build, or make a process to control what goes out to production, that's what you do. You type in manual. But I do automatic because it's just me, okay? So if we were to, let's see if we can kick this pipeline off. So let's go over to the pipeline. Let's go and click on our pipeline. And let's see if this actually works. Okay. Of course, you know it works. So remember when I deleted that W that I misplaced? I think I pushed it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a git. And remember, the pipeline is not running. There's nothing running. So we're going to do an add all, because I want all the files. And then I'm going to do a git commit -m. And I'm going to say something like some change I did in the code, which is removed W. Okay? Just put it like that. Okay? So right now it's saying there's nothing to commit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a space right here and save it to give us something to commit. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an add all. And then I'm going to do a git commit. And see how I did that change, because I want this to kick off the pipeline. Then I'm going to do a git push. So when I do that git push, watch this. So if we go here, look at that. It's running my actual pipeline. So what my pipeline is going to do, it's going to send it to the S3 bucket. And what I want you to do is pay attention to this build number right here. So that's that sed command that I run, where I take the environment variable of my pipeline, which there are environment variables that come out of the box with the build system of Bitbucket. And so I took advantage of that, and what I did was made it where I can see what build number this is after it deploys. So in my code, what I did was over here you have the Gatstby config.js. So I used GraphQL. So GraphQL, I do a query to this set of data right here, the static data, and I grab that build number. So before I do the build, I do a sed and I replace 1.0.1, and then I do my build. So let's talk about how that variable is being injected. So if you go over to, let's go over to the admin layout, okay? So in the admin layout, this is where I actually do the query. And then what I do is Once I do the query, I pass the value of the build from that file you just saw. I pass it into the nav bar. So then when I go to the nav bar, okay, what I do is I take that same variable that I passed in, which is the build, and I pass it to, let's see, let's find it. I pass it to, actually I pass it to, let's see. I pass it to the nav bar right here. Here it is. That's that button you see, and it changes that build number so I know what build went out, and I know that things changed on my S3 bucket. So let's go and check on our build. Everything is still, the build is still running. And then if we go and look, you can actually make changes. If you're like really good at the language and you know how the pipeline work and you're confident, you can actually go in here and you can actually edit the pipeline. So right here is when I do the SCD and I replace 1.1 with the Bitbucket build number in the Gatstby config.js before I even do the rest of the steps. So it does this install, it does the replacement. Then what happens is it builds it out. It goes to public, which I mark my artifacts. And then it does it. And at the same time, it's doing the security scan at the same time. These two steps are ran in parallel. So you mark it as parallel. So they both run at the same time. And then after both of these are done and they have to pass, because they're parallel, what happens is it runs your deploy to production. Okay? So let's go and take a look. It's deployed. So like it's 17, right? So I'm expecting like 18 or a higher number. Let's see what happens. Look at that. It's build 18 now. I can actually put a release in here as well. So, whoops. Let me refresh. I think it cached or something. Let's do this. Uh-oh. Look like I ran into something, so let's do this. It might be still pushing things up, so let's go over to customer. And it's still 17, so I'm gonna have to figure out what happened. That's embarrassing. Or is it build 17? No, it's build 18. So it might be that my S3 cached. So let me do a refresh right here. Let me make sure that I didn't get a cache. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, there we go. Look, it turned from 17 to 18 again. You see that? Let me inspect this right here. So something is wrong. And it looks like it might be a caching issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this into an incognito window. And hold on, let me do a run. And look at that, it cached. So because it cached, it did exactly what I thought it was gonna do. It cached, and so now we have that build 18. Okay, and so that's one thing to be aware of is this cache right here. You have to clear the cache because you see how it's going back and forth. So that's everything I have. That's what I've been working on. I actually integrated my deployment. And so I am going to have some videos on how to actually do that. So